February 22nd, to me, that's the day that's logged into my memory. We were on a patrol, and we crossed into the jungle. We crossed a small, they called it a river, but it was a stream, but it was waist high, only about 15 feet across. And so we crossed it, we got up, we came up to the back of a hutch, and then the captain halted our unit and told everybody to hunker down. And then he came to me and he says, "Go check out the hutch." When I entered the hutch, it's to check for false walls, check for false ceilings, check for false floor structures. And I did all that, and I walked out up to the captain, and I broke rule 1. You're supposed to stay 15 to 20 feet apart in the open. And I walked up to him, I guess in my mind, not to be hollering out what you heard, what you saw, whatever. So I think that's why I walked up to the captain, and I broke rule 1. And then as I was explaining to him what I saw and didn't see, I looked over my left corner of my shoulder, because I was in describing, and I saw a homemade antenna on the front up above the doorway of the hutch. Well, because we approached it from the rear, I didn't see it. And so I pointed. Rule number 2, you don't point in the field, because that shows authority or direction. And that's when they opened up fire on me. And one round sheared the strap to my pack, and it's a pack the straps are down against your chest. And that's how close that single round was that sheared the strap to my pack. And the other 3 to 4 bullets, one hit me at the nape of the neck. I got a scar there. And then I got a piece of shrapnel yet in my skin, but the doctor told me that he would cause more damage just to leave it. So I have a I don't know what you call it, but anyway, so when the 3 rounds that hit my shoulder, it was just above the clavicle. It was all meat. And so it threw me about 15 feet, and it hit the company commander in his chest. And so when I laid there, reorganizing my mind, the first thing I did, while I was laying there, I heard the M79 grenade launcher go off on the other side of the hutch. So then I knew the other side, the other column, was now in conflict with the enemy. And so as soon as I heard that, then I scrambled to the ditch. That is a moat around the little shack. And that's like what the British do to protect the castle, a moat. And there was a moat around, and you don't jump into it because they have the punji sticks that are embedded, and if you jumped into, then you'd be jumping onto sharpened bamboo, ramming up your legs. And so I slithered into it. And as soon as I got into it, then I called out to the medic and hollered for the medic to come. And so when the medic hears the term medic, he's on the run. And so he comes to me, and he rips my shirt to see what's up. And I said, forget me, go get the captain. And so he takes off, and then he starts working on him, and I'm watching this, and that's too much for me. I told myself that he's working on the captain out in the open. So I turned and I hollered out for my ammo bearer. I hollered instead of ammo bearer, and right at this time, I can't focus his name, Daryl, okay? So I hollered out, Daryl, we need you. And he says, I'm watching the captive. And I said, kill him, we need you. And so silence is for 5 seconds, and then he's running up toward my voice, and he's got this look on his face, and I knew that it was his first kill. And a kill meaning with your bare hands or with a knife. And so he used he had a knife that looked like a pirate knife that's got a nice tight point to the top and back down. And so anyway, he shoved the knife into his throat, and that's what we're taught, into this part of the throat right here. It's a soft spot right there. So he killed him. He comes running, and I said, go drag the captain away from the corner, around the corner. And so he runs up there, and I'm still standing in the moat. I don't know how bad I'm injured, but I know that I've been shot. And so he runs up, and he grabs the company commander. As soon as he grabbed the company commander, then the AK-47 opened up again. And I could see the rounds hitting the foundation of the hutch. About knee-high every foot as they worked the way through this group of 3 people now, company commander, the medic, and my ammo bearer. And so the ammo bearer got hit in the leg, and 3 rounds hit him in the right thigh. And so that threw him almost to me. And so he's laying there in thriving pain, and the medic's still working, or was working on the company commander. And so he's reaching out to me, and I said, get closer to me and I'll get closer to you. So I crawled out of the trench, and I left my right foot in the trench to pull me back. So I grabbed his shirt sleeve and shirt and pulled him toward me in the trench around the... Anyway, so I didn't pull him into the trench because he had an open wound and it was pumping blood. So I took his first aid pack off and put the first aid pack is about this long, about this wide, and about that thick. And then you got trailings on both ends, about 4 foot each. So I put his first aid pack on the biggest purple hole pumping blood, and wrap the trailings around 2 or 3 small holes that are pumping blood because it hit the bone, and then it's bullets and bone exiting the force that hit it. And so then I used my first aid pouch to put over the next worst hole, and then trailings to cover up the small bleeders. And then I'm keeping him awake. They teach you in medics, or what in your learning capacity, to keep him awake. And so I sang cadence songs to him to keep him awake. And then pretty soon somebody came running by and they said, all the choppers, medevacs, are all taken up because of our previous excursion, and they're all gassing up and resupplied and et cetera, et cetera. he said, so we're going to drop a gunship down, and we know when a gunship comes down, they don't land. They only hover about 5 foot above the ground. And so I knew I was going to have a situation. And so he runs off, and then I can hear the chopper coming. So then I said, okay, Daryl, it's time to go. So I put him on this shoulder. I didn't want him to have dirt and stuff in this shoulder. And so I started carrying him out to the chopper, which is about 40 or 50 feet. And I got halfway there when I was out of energy. And so I told him, I said, I'm going to have to put you down. I'm going to switch shoulders. So when I brought because I had him on this shoulder. So when I brought him down, I knocked my helmet off. And so now I reached down and I thought, oh, my helmet fell off and my glasses fell off. I picked up my helmet, to hell with my glasses, and then I put my helmet on and I put him on this shoulder because this one's wore out. So then about the last 10 or 15 feet, I carried him with this shoulder. And when the gunship was hovering, I threw him on the gunship and then jumped on the gunship. And then they took us off. When the nearest small town that had any kind of a hospital was called Zion, and it was spelled D-I-O-N, but they don't pronounce the D with the Z. And so they dropped me off, and they took him to Japan for his injury, bone injury. And so I got to spend about 4 or 5 days in the hospital, and while I was there, I got my mail. The mail keeps up with you. Where you are at, they send the mail via chopper, and that's the one good thing that I had while I was in Vietnam. And so I read in my mail from my mom that my cousin arrived in a little town called Zion with the new Cobra choppers. And so I knew I was in Zion. And so I put the letter down and I walked up to the head deal, and I said, can I go outside and walk around? And they said, okay, be back for lunch. So I left, and outside was a group of 4 or 5 people on the corner. And I walked up and I said, where's the new chopper group at? And they said, oh, down that way, a block or so. And so I walked down there, and you got to remember, I'm in a soft cap, ball cap, and don't have my weapon. And so I get up to where the choppers were, and I hollered out, Mike Gorman, because the letter said my cousin was there. And so he comes running, and he answers, yes, sir. He comes running, and it's my cousin, and he sees me. So we go up and we hug each other, and unbelievable. I got to meet with my cousin, and I have a soft cap on. He's got a helmet on. Two different. He's supposed to have the soft cap. I'm supposed to have a helmet, right? And so we hugged each other, and we made up a time factor. And so I said, well, I have to go back to the hospital to go to lunch and be on my way. And he said, okay. He says, well, I'm here. And so I said, I tell you what, I lost my glasses, so I have to come back down to Saigon to get the glasses. So I'll drop in here and we'll meet up. And he said, okay. And so I did my thing, and I got back to the company area, and was rest and relax, R&R for me. And then he says, okay, you're well enough to travel, so go down to Saigon, Tan Son Nhut Air Base, and get your glasses. And so I went down there, and I jumped on the chopper. I went to the chopper pad to jump on the chopper, and they said, where are you headed? And I said, Saigon. So chopper flew 5 minutes and pulled over and landed, and jump on that chopper, and where are you headed? I said, Saigon. And it traveled 10, 15 minutes down, and I jumped out, and they said, go to that chopper. And I did that one, and they said, where are you headed? I said, Saigon. And so I finally made it to Saigon and got to the infirmary, and the glasses were, I think, second floor or something or other. So I went up, and the guy that there, he says, oh, I was just ready to go to lunch. And I said, well, I need a set of glasses. And he said, okay. So my file, they tell you in the file what, so they fit me with a pair of glasses. And so I leave so he can go to lunch, right? So I go back down to the chopper, and I stand at the pad, and they said, where are you headed? And I go, Zion. And so, because my base camp is Laike, which is a 15 to 20 minute flight chopper from Zion forward. So I said, I'm going to go back to my cousin, right? So anyway, I got to see my cousin second time, and I told him I'll come down another time and stay with him longer. But anyway, that occurred too, because I had to make another trip to get back down to where the unit was. But anyway, I arrived at my base camp, and the master sergeant said, where you been for the last 4 days? I got in trouble. 5 days of gone without saying. There's a word for it. So anyway, so I had to spend an extra 4 days in Vietnam, past my regular date.